Hey, potential sponsor. Did you know that each episode of RecLess averages over 500 listens? That's 500 potential agencies that you could influence or reach. Over all of our social media and listening platforms, we have over 2,200 subscribers and followers. Not bad for this little passion project of ours from 3 professional work friends. This spot right here could be yours. Not only would you reach the Parks and Rec masses, but your contribution goes directly to supporting Parks and Rec professionals in our field through scholarships for professional development. Contact us today at recklesspod@gmail.com or check us out at recklesspod.com for more details. And now, on with the show.
Welcome to Season 6 of RecLess, the podcast making you smarter about the field of parks and recreation. Your hosts are Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venero, 3 professional friends, if you know, from around the country, bringing you a surprise guest each episode. This project has made an impact, educates others, and continues to support a growing community. Thank you for being part of it. This is RecLess.
What's up?
What's up, brother?
What's going on?
You got a busy weekend? Y'all out turning it up?
Yeah, we went last week. We were in Tennessee. This one is local, so we're not traveling this weekend, which is nice.
Dude, do you have him on steroids? He looks stronger every time I'm seeing him.
So, you know what's funny is he just went through like a major growth spurt.
Gosh, he looks strong. Not thick, but strong. I always see your videos on Instagram that you share, and he's lean. You're lean. Lindsay's lean. You are an athletic family, but he's always looked a little bit leaner than some of the guys he's playing with. In the last couple of videos you posted, I was like, good grief, man.
Yeah, he's getting thicker.
Getting strong.
So,
Tomas, speaking of thick.
Wow. Guys.
What's up, buddy?
I quit.
Come on.
Listen, I don't know what's going on. It's my camera is giving me this message, failed to start camera. Please select another camera. So this has never happened before. And the little box that puts it on and off is on. Yeah. The little switch at the top. I'm not understanding what's going on right now.
usually I'm the one with the
That's right.
difficulties.
That's right.
So I don't know if I got to troubleshoot here.
We can hang for a second. We've already lost Tom. Maybe I shouldn't have called him thick. That was funny. Dude, your reaction is what made me laugh. Because I hope Hannah keeps some of that in. Like, your reaction to that was hilarious.
Well, that's what happens when we don't talk for a month, or do one of these for a month, I should say.
No, we get all feisty. This computer stops working. Oh, Pawnee Raccoon Control is getting a real behind-the-scenes look at the mastermind that is RecLess right now.
And regretting their decision today.
Absolutely. 100%. They're fixing to text me and be like, oh my gosh, there's an emergency. I got to step away. I wonder if he's had to reboot his whole computer. And it still won't work.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, guys.
What's up, buddy?
I'm here in all of my thickness.
I told Jay, I was like, hey, I shouldn't have done that, boy. He jumped off. He hopped off real quick.
Yeah, it didn't last long.
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Good. Busy.
Yeah.
It's just, it's the time of year. I guess all of times of year are busy, but this one feels especially hectic right now.
Yeah.
New people, public hearings, location changes, things like that, all happen at the same time. But I'm good. I'm ready to go. It's been a while again.
Yeah.
All right. It has. Yeah. Okay. Are y'all ready to do this?
Let's do it.
Welcome to RecLess. Is that how we're supposed to start?
I think. I almost threw you off there because I was just acknowledging the Pawnee Raccoon Controls with us.
You can't throw off a train that's already off the track. I think that's the important thing.
You're not on the track.
That's right. I'm already off the track, so you can't throw me off. Okay, folks, that was a cold open. It's as bad as I've ever done it, and I'm very proud of it. My name's Shane. These are my professional work friends, Tom and Jay. Jay, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Happy to be here, and it's been a while.
It has. Tomas?
Well, started the call with an insult, but I'm good. I'm good now.
Not from me.
No, never from you. When I was logging back in after my tech difficulties, I just was thinking, man, I like Jay so much more than Shane.
Except
Yeah.
for that one time in Baltimore.
Oh, that one moment. Do all mine add up to that one yet or not? I don't know if we've ever fully talked about that on the podcast. That was great. Maybe
No,
our last episode.
but we'll keep people wondering.
That's
Yeah.
right. Well, fellas, I got a banger of a guest today. I'm excited. And I think the conversation is going to be fascinating. Before we get to that, I've been thinking, had some time, been thinking about our question. And I don't want this to come off poorly. And with me saying that, and me delivering it, it probably will. But I think underrated is a term that some people take very positively. I think some people can take it negatively. I'm not talking about this in a negative way. I think we have all been in the field 15, 20 years, and we've seen people at the state level and probably at the national level that you're just shocked that they don't get more due, more respect, more their flowers in some way. And so I thought, man, would be a great opportunity to highlight them right here, right now. So the question is a two-parter for our boy Tom. Who is in your state specifically, and then nationally, that you think they're underrated and how they're perceived by the rest of the industry? You're just completely impressed by them, and maybe they do get some credit, but you don't believe they get the credit or the flowers that they absolutely deserve. And I'll go first. And what I think is interesting about this is the state one will probably be someone that we don't know nationally, right? But the national one will be someone that we probably know of or people know of, but they're still not getting their due. At least that's in the mind space I'm at. So state person for me is Fensei. Fensei is the assistant director in South Lake. Before that, he was in Denton, Highland Village. When we did my dream team, he was the guy I said would run my parks team. I'm completely enamored with him. Anytime I'm talking to him about park operations, park planning, I think he's incredible. And at the state level, I don't think he's underrated. Everyone knows Fensei, but nationally, it doesn't seem to be well known. And I think there are people missing out on learning something incredibly knowledgeable. Nationally, I think someone we know, and so probably someone we wouldn't think is very underrated, but I think at a national level, I think he is, to me, is Nate Williams. I think Nate's super creative, does some really cool programming. I mean, I think he was on esports with Kendra Beaver way before anybody else was really doing it. I think some of the stuff he does with some of his shirt design, some of his program design, I think he reached out to our YPN fam, was doing wasn't he doing the senior tattoo program?
Yeah.
It's like, that blew my mind, some of the stuff he comes up with. And I think we see him as rated. We rate him very highly. But, and I think people in Missouri rate him very highly. But I don't know if nationally he gets what I think he deserves. And so those are two people that, and I think both people, if I go back and think, I think both those people were in my dream team that we did a couple years back, which, probably makes some sense because these are people you rate higher than the respect they get or whatever. So those were the two I was thinking of specifically, and hopefully I've talked enough that both of y'all have someone in mind. Does anyone want to go?
I think I've got some good individuals that I was thinking of while you were talking through. It's a weird question.
It is, because I don't want to disrespect them, and it's me saying they should be received better than I perceive they are, but maybe they're received really well. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I leave it to Shane to ask those types of questions, and so two questions, two-parter, two answers for the state. I just want to say an individual named Jeff Nutting is the first I want to start with. Jeff is right around our age and at the point in the careers that we are. He is one of two commissioners of Parks and Recreation in our area. And that's basically, we have a civil service process here where Director of Parks and Recreation is kind of the top, but a couple agencies have leveraged it so well that they created a position called commissioner. And he's one of two. What I really appreciate about Jeff, and we get together and have lunches probably once every couple months or so, so we stay in touch. But his journey is amazing. He was an intern with the agency that he serves now and worked all the way up to this commissioner position. And he's followed two legends of the field. One is a gentleman named Jeff Myers, who was the commissioner there. I don't know how long he was commissioner, but he was with this community, the town of Parrington, for a very long time. And he was I mean, he's a legend in this area, always at NRPA, perhaps not as involved in NRPA, but Jeff took over for an individual named Jim Donahue, who was actually a former NRPA Board of Directors president.
I was about to say that name did sound somewhat familiar. Donahue.
And an Academy member. So,
one of only a couple in New York,
yes,
right? Actually,
yes,
yep.
Absolutely. Yep, Jim Donahue and Bill Zimmerman are the two that come to mind. And so, anyway, he came through this it's this coaching tree, so to speak. We've talked about that before, and he's made the most of it from an individual again who started with them when he was 21, 22, out of Brockport, and just kept working his way up. And what he's established, the reputation that he has, what he's doing now in that position and making it his own while also taking some of the great that he's learned is something that I look forward to learning about all the time when they put out updates or we get to meet. I want to also just mention a young lady named Naomi Sosnowski. She is serving as the co-chair of the 26 NYSRPS annual conference this year. And Naomi's just a rock star. She has such an amazing ability. Her personality is it's bright. You walk into the room and there's Naomi, and people know, and she has a presence. She's also got an incredible background where she's done some studies in her education that are a little more unique, non-traditional than what she's got, I think, a degree in culture. And so just different aspect, bringing it to this field. And she's just rising. She keeps rising. She came from the aquatics world. That's where she spent like about 15 years. And now she's working her way up to, to new heights. And she's going to be a director very, very soon, if I had to guess. And she's also from the Buffalo area, Jay. So that's an area in general that I do not think gets its flowers. And for sure.
In Parks and Rec?
Yes, in our state, that Buffalo area, Niagara Frontier is what they call it. And so she's leading the way over there now and doing wonderful things. From a national level, I'm going to go and piggyback off of what you said about Nate. And honestly, this is because we have this group of individuals who we stay in contact with. And obviously, I'm not great on that. I stay off of it and then I get on and I try to catch up. And it's kind of how Shane is with just everything. But for that particular group, I'm just not great. I'm not always glued to the chat. So anyway, there's a couple of those individuals in the group that I maybe didn't know or don't know as well. And one recently that we've gotten to spend some more time with in person, and that's Derek Dunleavy. Yeah. And Derek has always been at the national scene. What I did not know about Derek going into that conference, and maybe this is just me, not doing a very nice job of getting to know a certain individual or individuals, but Milwaukee's a big deal in Wisconsin. And he is serving an incredible city. They do wonderful work over there. And then, of course, you all saw what he's done or what he does to represent his state in the state society in Wisconsin. And clearly in his state, he gets a lot of flowers and has a lot of respect. I'm not saying he doesn't have, this is why it's a weird question. I'm not saying that he doesn't have that at the national level, but he's definitely does it in a more quiet way. And he's a great guy. And definitely an ambassador for what we do.
Jay, I thought of our discussion too when we were in Wisconsin. We do the levels, and everyone gave you the seasoned professional. And I'm losing on her name right now, but the professional with the most experience, the fourth lap or the fifth lap on that track. we
Sue.
didn't really know. Yeah, Sue. We didn't really know who her, but everyone in that state knew her.
Yeah.
And not like, oh, I know of her, like had been impacted by her, had talked to her, like she was almost like a Dirk Richwine of the state. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she had that. That's initially when someone was talking about her, it reminded me of how you could talk to anyone about Dirk and everyone had their own unique Dirk experience and felt like they'd been seen and heard. And I was like, man, we miss out on so many people that just don't bubble up, which is kind of the genesis of this question when I was first thinking of it.
And it was really neat because there were so many conversations that took place that like people mentioned her name and like didn't know that we had connected with her through that session, or we're telling a story and then like all of a sudden the story would lead to her. Like it was cool. Like her name was popping up left and right, like unsolicited.
Unbelievably popular in Wisconsin and impactful.
It's great to go to these state conferences and see these individuals in that element because we only know them in the NRPA element most of the time.
And they just shine.
They do. Before Jay goes, I just want to correct myself with Naomi and add where she is currently serving. It's the town of Amherst. Jay, you're familiar with Amherst. And Amherst is one of the largest municipalities in the area, for sure. So it's a great community. Jay, you could probably speak to that. And I wanted to correct myself just in case I didn't have that education correct. But her degrees are in creativity and change leadership, which is incredibly unique, and also international event management. So really great path that she took to be here, and she brings a completely unique perspective to the profession and the position she's in.
That's cool.
Who you got, Jay?
That's my old stomping grounds. So for my local choice, I'm gonna go with someone that Tom knows, actually knows him pretty well, but Diana Carrera, who is formerly known as Diana Weber. She actually came from New York, and I'll just tell a very brief story. She's a rock star. She absolutely is a huge rock star. She works for Mecklenburg County. I think she's going on like 3 different promotions in the last like 6 years. And it's just every position she's held, she's thrived and been fantastic. But she first came to North Carolina and was not officially moving yet, but I think she knew she was going to move to North Carolina. So just started like randomly reaching out to departments. And this is when I was in Indian Trail with Katie, and she reached out to Katie and I was like, hey, just would love to come meet you and check out your facilities and talk about park and rec in your neighborhood. And like we met like very randomly and just ended up having a great conversation. I could see from the very beginning of that conversation that she was going to be an awesome professional long-term in North Carolina. She was already working in New York, but was planning on moving. And, since then, she was part of the Leadership Academy that I was working with Mecklenburg County. She did get a NRPA Young Professional Scholarship a few years ago. But like I said, everything that she's been tasked to take on and every challenge she's ever accepted has been just absolutely demolished. She's awesome.
I could second that.
Yeah,
100%. In New York State, when she was here, Rockstar, and just fun fact, came through from this in the same system as the individual I talked about, Jeff Nutty.
Yeah.
Worked hand in hand.
For the national side, I actually had like 3 people come to mind at first, but I'm just going to stick with one because, and I know I've talked about SMS several times. Being a regent with SMS, you get to know your fellow regents and other people that are on there with you really well. And for the most part, my first year, I knew all of the other regents very well. And some of them were in North Carolina. Obviously, like we had Atuya on there. We have, others that we've had on this show, Tony Lopez, J. Cole. Like these are just folks that I've known for years. And my second year, we brought someone on that I had not known at all out of Missouri, Gabe Huffington. Okay, he's the Park and Recreation Director for Columbia, Missouri. Also works as an adjunct professor. And the more I got to know him, the more I was thrilled that he was on SMS and someone that I didn't know, because there's always folks that like I love working with that I've known over the years.
That's us, obviously.
Maybe one of you. So we'll just leave it at that. But Gabe's awesome. And it's one of those, like, he had not done a ton of national speaking at the time. And I don't know. I mean, he's been to conferences, but, he's not out doing the state association's conference schedule like others might be doing. So I just didn't know him very well at all, or never even really got to meet him. And the more I got to meet him, I'm like, man, he's just a rock star. And then I start talking to other people in Missouri that have known Gabe forever. So kind of similar to that whole like Sioux story with Wisconsin. Because as soon as he joined us, I texted Michael Biedenstein, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know Gabe." And then talking to someone else, like, "Oh yeah, I know Gabe." And in the state, he's well known. It's just a matter of getting his name out, I guess, from a national perspective. But he's been such a pleasure to work with at SMS, and I'm sure if he continues to want to do things more on the national scale, like he'll be another one that everyone's going to know of in several years.
Yeah, it's cool to get to know him for other people. It's one of those things. It happens a lot in anything, I think, acting, comedy, whatever. I think of Nate Bargatze. I remember watching an interview one time, and Nate Bargatze now is well known, right?
Yeah.
But he was on Jimmy or something. They were asking him, and they said he just kind of exploded on the scene. He was like, "I've been doing this for 15 years." Like there's a moment where you're not known, and then all of a sudden something happens. And success happens, and at some point you become exposed to more people. And Nate Bargatze didn't change. It's just all of a sudden we were exposed to him in some capacity or not. So I enjoy those types of opportunities and fascinated when it happens. Okay, let's get to the guest who is not underrated at all. They are very rated. They're blowing up. Okay, so Jay, they're not from Texas. So do I get any credit for that?
Ooh, do it.
And Tom, they're not an Academy member, but they have an Academy tie-in.
Okay.
They're a former extern. Okay.
Right.
They won their state's new professional of the year.
What state?
I'll tell you in a minute. They are a Director Summit attendee for the last 3 years, so maybe we'll get to hang with them. They started out in Campus Rec. They met a former guest of ours who turned out ultimately she worked for him, Chase Ellis. They met Chase at a fitness expo, not a Campus Rec conference or an NRPA conference, and saw Chase, which as we've gotten to know him is bang on exactly what you'd think he'd be doing. He was doing the worm on a dance floor at a fitness expo. That's where she met him, and ultimately they got to know each other and she started working for him. She did her undergrad from Georgia Southern and her master's from Florida. She's served 2 years as the chair of the LDN and helped start Virginia's YPN. It's where she's working now. She's from Savannah, Georgia, which is a town all of us have talked about as a really cool place we'd like to go visit, and plays a 3,000-year-old Irish sport that I can't say the name of. But maybe we can ask her about it in Round Robin. Most recently, she co-started the newest network in NRPA. Our guest is Emmy Richards, Parks and Rec Manager from Ashland, Virginia.
Hello, everybody.
What's up?
Welcome.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here.
She said she felt like she made it when we reached out. I was like, boy, that is not the case.
I did it.
You made it to something.
She texted me during our banter. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to participate."
You sure
It's
it wasn't
so
like,
hard
oh my
to
gosh,
sit there
this is taking
silent
forever?
and not
Yeah.
share.
Yeah. No, thanks for being on with us.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Been looking forward to it all week.
Yeah, this is exciting. So this was one of those that I'd reached out to her. I was trying to schedule her later, and then we had this just random little opening pop up. And we were actually going to hop on a call today after this call. And I was like, "How available are you on Friday?" And she was like, I'm available all day. And I was like, "Perfect. Let's just move you up. Let's do it this week." So Emmy's game. So first of all, let's talk about something that we all have a little bit of experience in, which is forming and starting and doing the hard work. The work that sometimes goes unseen, a lot of hard hours, a lot of love is put into something when you're creating something from the ground up. And that is something you've done with a colleague of yours, and that is this small agency network. I also think it's fascinating because I think both Tom and Jay and I think, is it 20,000 is the class? Is
30.
it 20? Okay, so Hutto was around 30,000. So at one time, any of us could have even been at an agency that would have been participating in this network. So talk to us a little bit more about why you created the network, what the drive from that network was, and they just had their first meeting. So give us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this is very much my passion project. And so it's so cool to talk with you guys and your experience with YPN. So the Small Agency Network is a network through NRPA for individuals in Class 5 agencies or friends of. We love everybody to be there. So that's 30,000 or less in your community. And that usually means small staffs, limited resources. But this was really born out of a gap that we saw in opportunities for small agency people to connect. For reference, I am in Ashland, Virginia, so I have about 7,500 community members and I'm a staff of one, so it's just me. And when I needed help, like bouncing ideas off of somebody, or, I can't just like go to the office next door and somebody understands Parks and Rec. So at Director Summit, I was there in Northern Virginia a few years ago with Chase Ellis. So yeah, Chase and I go way back in Campus Rec days. I met Keith Cox, and he is the director in Bryant, Arkansas. And we connected over working in small agencies. His is a little different. It's about 22,000 people, but it kind of helps because we run the gamut of small agency. I'm very, very small, and he's kind of on the other end of the spectrum. And we started talking about how small agencies make up the majority of NRPA's membership, but there just wasn't a whole lot out there for us. And like we go to conferences and kind of get swallowed up by the big like cities. And so we put together a presentation for NRPA's conference in Orlando. And, we tell the story of going in for that first session. We are on the very last day. You never want to be on the last day, right? Either people have partied too hard at the Purple Party the night before, or they're getting on a plane early to go home. We're down a dark hallway and kind of like in a back corner room. And we're sitting there, we're thinking, man, like we hope people show up. And 109 people came. And majority of them, we did a poll, were all from small agencies. And so after
that's like 500 on day 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, there should be a multiplier for that when they do the session evals.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so we had people stay like 30, 45 minutes after to talk to us about, because we talked about small agencies and how, it was called Small Agencies Big Impact. We kind of left that session feeling like we needed to continue the conversation. I had been on the Leadership Development Network. I was the chair for 2 years of that because we had an issue my first year. I was chair-elect and our chair had to step down, so I got to do it a little bit longer. Keith came on. He was on LDN as well. And that's when we decided, like, we had experience with the networks and we thought this would be a perfect avenue to continue the conversation. So we worked with Haley and Michael with NRPA, and we launched the Small Agency Network officially in March. And then yesterday we had our very first meeting. We did do like a little sandbox meeting in December. So it's kind of their, test the waters, see if people show up, see if they're interested. Once again, we were like, oh, we'll be lucky if we have 20 people. We had 100 again in that. And just this really huge demand for, I think we had like 160 register and 100 people actually show up. And so we just recognized this demand and saw this gap and decided we were going to fill it. And so Keith has been an amazing partner through all of this. I'm kind of the crazy emotional, one. He's the nerdy yin to my yang, and really excited to see where this goes.
That's really cool. And I, serving a smaller agency, ours is around 17,000. So in the middle, I guess you would say, it resonates. And, one thing that you had mentioned that I almost wonder if this would be something that NRPA would be, and I don't know how much information you want to put next to something on an app, but now that we have this network, the concept of you're reading a session proposal or description, you read the title, it sounds amazing, and then you go in and see the presenters, if you get that far. Some people just get to the title and the description and they're in. But if you get that far, you see City of Dallas or City of Houston, and that's great, but it may not apply to me, may not apply to you. I wonder if that's an idea that maybe that this group, again, that's not really my question, but
like
some
small,
kind of,
agency network approved session, stamp of approval.
I mean,
Tom, that's hard. A great point. Before you get to your question, you and I spoke at virtually Connecticut.
Yep.
And I realized very quickly that what I was talking about was CIP, and I had $100 million of CIP and an $80 million bond, and a lot of those people are never going to touch it. And
Mhm.
I felt like they connected you really quickly on some of your stuff, and I lost them really quickly, and I was like, crap. And it's not the speaker's fault necessarily. They are talking about a very suburban town and in an Austin metro area. We're just going to have a larger CIP than Ashland, Virginia is going to. But when and Jay and I have been on the program committee, you are trying to make sure you hit the masses, but it's just tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this case, it was the speakers, but I digress. So, this case, it had a little bit to do with the speaker not connecting, but
that was my
I can
fault.
see what you're saying. Jay and I did a session in Maryland that was very similar in title to what you described, Emmy. It was small agency, large agency, big impact. And in that particular group, I want to say Maryland, you're going to see the national capital, and you've got big heavy hitters and you've got small communities. But in Connecticut, or even New York, not counting New York City, you're not going to see that. You're going to see a lot of smaller agency.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I guess my question is, and out of personal interest, and then just going forward, what are some of the goals of this network? Where do you see this group going next? And maybe talk to topics, or again, just I'm sure you've set up some goals during these meetings in establishing the network.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you talk about Connecticut. We actually just got back at the end of March from Massachusetts Parks and Rec Association conference, where Keith and I were invited to be featured speakers there. And so we talked small agency stuff, both of our sessions that we had. And, that community, tons of small agencies, tons of small towns, rural towns too. It's kind of, we kind of run the gamut of, small and small is, relative to everybody. Like I look at Keith and his staff of, I think 19, but he's got
feels huge to you, right?
Yeah. Most of those are park operations guys, but I'm like, wow, like I have a part-time person. I get 4 hours of help from a week, and I share with somebody else. But yeah, so small agency network, we kicked off yesterday, as I said, with our first meeting, 83 on the call, 230 something registered. So just love to see that there's the need out there. We're on NRPA Connect, and that is, so you can join the community there. And that's really going to be the hub for a lot of what we do. The goal is less education based, like Leadership Development Network was, and more connection. I think the best part of meeting other small agency people is just finding people who get it and who understand like what it's like to work in a small town or city or rural community and be doing it all. Our tagline is "We wear all the hats." That's our number one goal. I would say resource sharing is huge, like especially in a small town. Like I don't have time to, create a volunteer program, but if I know somebody who's got one, I'm gonna reach out to them. Creative problem solving, finding solutions, having, those conversations just with somebody who's either done it and can help or can help you brainstorm and knows your perspective. Because what I'm dealing with may be the same problems that, like for me, I compare a lot. I'm in Virginia, Loudoun County, right outside of DC, Virginia Beach. Like we may have staffing issues, both of us, but this is going to look real different for me. So those are our first goals. We're going to have quarterly meetings. So we just had our first one yesterday. The next one is July. Yeah, I mean, it's just been amazing to see how much interest and need there has been. Yesterday at the end of the meeting, I asked, what's your one takeaway from today? And people were putting in the chat, I'm not alone. I'm not doing this alone. Like there are other people out there like me. And when all of our voices are together, we're louder. And so that's the goal.
Before Jay hops in, I just want to say that I'm super impressed and excited for this. This is a big win for small agencies. It's also a very big win for NRPA. Mm-hmm. If you really think about it, we've talked about that. NRPA is great. NRPA highlights the big, they highlight the big cities. They highlight all of that. Whenever you go to an NRPA conference and you see a playground build in a underserved community, it's not in a community of 7,500 people. It's in Atlanta, and that's great. And I understand that, but there are needs for the smaller communities as well. And the smaller communities, they don't all have there. I think there's this misconception that these smaller communities are always these suburbs that might have great resources in whatever the income is higher than typically a city. That's not always the case. I mean, it's definitely not the case. And so the formula to think of it for every big city, for every Dallas, for every New York City, how many small agencies surround them? That multiplier has to be massive.
Yeah. And so, for me, like I'm a small town in Virginia. Keith is a large city in Arkansas, because of
Sure.
their size. But it is interesting, Tom. And when you're talking about NRPA, definitely having the relationship that I did with Haley and Michael and having been on LDN and knowing the inner workings of the network and how that translated was really helpful. But they have jumped on board completely in doing this. We actually wrote an article, Keith and I did, for the NRPA magazine. We did a column in January. And so they're doing a quarterly, I think either quarterly or every other month column called Small Town Stories. So we're really, I think, just, we're just saying we're here and we deserve to be heard and seen. And I'm excited to kind of bring everybody together in one place.
We'll be right back.
Hey, listener, is it time to DTR this relationship and make you a sponsor? I don't even know what the hell that means, but I do know that each episode of RecLess averages over 500 listeners. That's 500 potential ears attached to agencies that you could influence or reach. Over all of our social media and listening platforms, we have over 2,200 subscribers and it's growing. This spot right here could be yours. Not only would you reach the Parks and Rec masses, but your contribution goes directly to supporting Parks and Rec professionals in the field through scholarships for professional development. Contact us at recklesspod@gmail.com or check us out at recklesspod.com for more details. Okay, now back to the show.
This is going to be the Tom and Emmy show. By the way, I'm just so interested in this topic.
I told her that this was going to be a freaking great episode.
One last comment to that is maybe they create a large agency branch, maybe not, but I think there's one big difference there, and at least from my experience, is that, and I've talked to individuals that are in the bigger cities. Shane, you could probably relate to some of this. There's a little bit more of a political influence. And so relating Parks and Recreation in a big city to another big city is not going to be the same as relating a smaller agency with a smaller agency. So again, for so many reasons, you are all onto something here, and I'm thrilled.
Thanks.
You good, Tom? You can keep going if you want.
I like to share.
No, I love it. I haven't really spoken up yet on this, but I do think it's awesome. I worked for a small agency when I was with Indian Trail, and it's
started it.
I did, and it's grown since I was there. Like, they were a booming city that is now in the like 40,000 residents, but when I was there, it was, high 20s, get to 30,000, and then my last year I was there, probably 32,000, something like that. So still on that, higher end, but still small. And what was awesome was all of the other surrounding towns around us were small or smaller than me. So we kind of just all came together, and we had monthly or quarterly meetings with about 4 different towns that like we needed to come together. And in some cases, we actually partnered for special events. And that was how we maximized our resources, because we all had smaller teams and didn't have the resources that you would have in a large municipality. So I would be curious to see, like, have you done that, or is there any conversations that you've heard from others that like, yeah, in order for us to accomplish this event, like we work with this team, with this department or this city to kind of make sure that we're meeting all those needs?
Yeah, well, I can say personally in Ashland, so I'm a town of, as I've said, 7,500, staff of 1. Jay also started my department, so I'm the first full-time Parks and Recreation professional, and I didn't come from a Parks and Rec background, coming from the campus rec world, so I had a lot to learn, and that's where I think associations like Virginia Recreation Park Society and NRPA were really critical to me, because I got connected very quickly with people who knew more about what they were doing and helped me along. But yeah, partnerships and those types of things are critical. In Ashland, my town is in the middle of Hanover County. And so I actually have an agreement with the county that we run joint programming. And we really try to do, so, I mean, they do a lot more programming than me, but we try to use resources that the other person doesn't necessarily have. So like, I have an outdoor community pool. They don't have a pool. And so we run a summer splash bash party. they have fields. I don't have any fields. And so we did an international sports day. Speaking to it, it's called Camogie. So it's the Irish word,
Camogie.
like, Camogie. But we can talk about that later. But
You'd think in 3,000 years they could have got a better name. That's all I'm saying.
well,
cool
for
to
the
me.
men, it's called hurling with an H, not the ice sport, not curling, but hurling with an H. And then for the women, it's camogie, kind of like softball, baseball, same premise. But anyway, we did an international sports day to highlight niche international sports. And we did that on their fields. And so that's been really beneficial. I know that's something that came up in the small agency network. We did how can we help you question at the very end? And it was, help me with partnerships and collaborations. So definitely a way to get things done when you're a small organization.
Hurling's a fierce sport, right? Like, I mean, so I imagine camogie is similar in some ways.
Yeah.
Like it's like a hockey stick, but almost like a scoop, like a wooden scoop, and they're hitting a hard ball at.
Yep. So you use the stick. It's called a hurley, and you hit the ball, which is called a slitter, down the field to either get it into a soccer net for 3 points or through uprights like a field goal for 1 point. It's like the fastest game on grass. You can hit the ball on the ground. You can hit it in the air. You can't pick it up off the ground with your hand. You have to scoop it with the stick. But it is a contact sport, which I absolutely love. Our local paper our local news station did a story on us, and they called it Violent but Beautiful, which I think is going to be our tagline moving forward. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I play for the Richmond Battery Gaelic Athletic Association. We have a team here. We played regionally, nationally. Our men just won a national title last year. So yeah, I've been playing for about 4 years now, and I love it.
It
Actually,
sounds
a game tomorrow. So
that's cool. It sounds like it maybe is an origin sport for maybe a field hockey or that those kind of derive from this and it also is going to sound weird. I'm not when you're explaining it, I'm thinking like Quidditch, like all these
Yeah.
that probably took something from that as well. So
yeah.
that's interesting.
Well, you talked about Keith a lot, and it is kind of we had talked. At one time, I reached out to Emmy, and she was like, "Can we have Keith on as well?" And we've done that. We've done more than 4 people wide or whatever. But I was fascinated not just by the small agency network, but I was fascinated by some of the path that you had gone. And so, I wanted to make sure we got into some of the stuff you're doing. You went from Campus Rec. Which I have a similar path, and Chase and others that we've had on this show have done something in Campus Rec. And then you went into public rec, municipal rec, but you went into starting your own network, right? Which is insane in some ways to me. You're an academy extern. You're young. You've done, when you look at what you've built so far in your career, you have all this stuff. Are small agencies something you're interested in the future? Do you want to go to a bigger agency? Like, what's next steps for you?
Yeah, I've been in Ashland for 4 years, and I can say I absolutely love it. The best part about being in a small agency is truly wearing all the hats. I get to do everything. Like, I'm not just programming. I'm not just operations. Like, my kind of origin story in Ashland Parks and Recreation is I got hired into the role, and it was January 3rd, and we had this massive snowstorm in Virginia that actually shut down Interstate 95. Cars parked, could not get off Interstate 95. It was my first day of work. I show up. My job is at Public Works because unknowingly they had unfrozen a Public Works position. And so my job was under the umbrella of Public Works. So I show up at the shop, me and 15 guys, they're getting the plows ready. Before I even see an office, they're like, all right, like you're getting the plow. And we're going to 12-hour shifts. And so I rode in a snowplow 3 days in a row, 12-hour shifts. I had no power at home. It was 40 degrees in my house. And I thought, what the heck have I gotten myself into? Is this Parks and Rec? And I actually worked under the umbrella of Public Works for like 10 months until I had to get my CDL, all of that. I wore steel-toed boots every day. But I worked under that umbrella for a while until we really figured out what direction the department needs to go in. And so I've gotten to build this department. Now I'm in town hall. I moved from coordinator to manager, and then I'll be officially director on July will be really exciting.
Congrats.
Yes.
Thank you. But I have just found so much purpose in small towns. I mean, I can walk outside and see the impact of my work. I can go to a park and walk the park, and I know every dog that comes through that park. I do everything from operations and, park planning. I run a Parks and Rec advisory committee to, the pool, picnic shelters. I wrote a bicycle and pedestrian plan. I really love the fact that no day is the same and I get to do all the things. So, ultimately, I'm really content with where I am. If my bosses are listening, I love it here.
Yeah. We're not going to send an email to them.
Yeah. But I think that, for the foreseeable future, like I'm a small town girl, and despite not being from one, and this is where I've found my home and my tribe.
I love that.
Speaking a little bit to the feel and the vibe of what you just explained, and now I know you started the department, so there wasn't necessarily any kind of historical reference, but I wearing all the hats it's great, and it's also stressful. It can be stressful. So I guess my question is there something that you've been able to do in the last 4 years that you're just over the moon proud of? And so I know it's, like I said, it's a new department. And I just give you an example.
Than coming on this podcast.
Other than the podcast and other than getting the CDL, which is impressive in itself, by the way. That's totally something I've never even thought of dabbling into. I don't know what I would have done. But, so for me with this agency, when I came in here many years ago, it was, and there's a lot we've done. It's been many years, and I'm very proud of my work. I love this place. But I just think about the culture and the brand awareness as a huge undertaking when I was originally hired. And it's come so far with, to your point, small agency resources. They're not paying $5,000-$10,000 to send us to a Disney staff culture training. This is all, and again, building up our training budget and getting it to a point so that we are sending small agency. Now we're sending 3 people to NRPA conference every year. That was not even, one person was not even thought of in the budget 11 years ago. And so building that culture and building our brand awareness is just, for me, something that I'm just super proud of from where we came in a small agency with the resources we had.
So you're talking about brand awareness too, internally, like showing your own agency the impact this department's having on this community. Yeah.
Correct. Yep. And how that shows through to the community, to the team, and what that creates culture-wise and morality-wise. It's amazing. It's such a, we talk about this, not to get too far off because I want to hear Emmy's answer, but we talk about the accreditation piece, and I know we've gotten into that, and I'm not trying to open that box up, but when we go to the awards at NRPA and you hear those groups that are either reaccredited or accredited, the process of them going through that together was arduous. It was tough, and it brought them together, and they are cheering as if they just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And anyway, so how about you, Emmy? What's something that, those last 4 years, you kind of want to stick your flag in and say, this was my baby. I'm so proud of this.
Twofold. I think the first is just building the department. So people were doing my job piecemeal before I got here. Obviously, like operations was handled, like public works was handling the parks. We had, a pool manager running the pool in the summer, but we really had no vision. We have a Parks and Recreation master plan that's a little outdated, and there was really no vision. So that was the first thing. Is I worked with my Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, and we put together a 5-year plan. And we sat down, and I talk about it a lot in the sessions that I do. So I'm not going to give too much away because I want people to come to that. I'm presenting at NRPA, so better see you there.
A well-lit hallway this time, please.
I know. Yeah. I'm going to give out flashlights to everybody so they can find us.
No, you're going to have like the prime spot on Tuesday after the opening session.
Seriously, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm lobbying for. But yeah, so I sat down with my Parks and Rec Advisory Committee in a work session, and I was just like, what do we want from this? Like what, and of course we started out with like, I actually have the giant sticky note paper. Like if I look behind my computer, I'm looking at it on the wall as a reminder, but it started out with like dogs, love that. Pickleball, basketball courts, blah, blah, blah. And, restrooms, fields. And I was like, okay, that's all great. Like I would love to have all of that too, but how do we get there? Like, what does it really translate to? And what it really came down to is that they want the best parks in the state of Virginia. They were like, we want excellent parks. I brought up the gold medal awards. They're like, we want gold medal level parks. And I was like, okay, awesome. I can work with that. Let's get us to gold medal level parks. That means that, we need to replace all of the picnic tables in all the parks because they're falling apart. That means we need to restructure our lifeguard training. And so that we're making sure we're doing in-services every month so that we're elevating the level of service out there. We need to add concessions to our pool. We need to, it's just all the little things to get us to that excellent level. And I think that that's the small town part of it is like, I may not be able to do the giant infrastructure projects, but I can be really, really good at the little stuff that makes a difference, like going into a clean restroom in a park or, making sure that like I'm CPSI, like every month we do playground safety inspections, making sure the playgrounds are in top shape. So that's kind of the first thing is like building this department. 4 years in now, finally feel like I kind of know what I'm doing sometimes. And then a new hat winds up on my plate. And I'm like, wait a second, I didn't know this kind of hat existed. Like my favorite hat of all the hats we wear is the party planning hat. It's the fun little birthday hat. But secondly, I had the tremendous experience of building a park from the ground up. So we opened in April of last year, May, the Berkeleytown Heritage Park in Ashland. And the land, as I was being hired, the land was being donated to us for the park from Habitat for Humanity. It was unbuildable, but the Berkeleytown Heritage Park is in the Berkeleytown Historic District, which is an African-American community that was born out of segregation laws. And so the basically African-American residents in Ashland were forced to move outside of town and build their own community, which they did. At the time, the land that Berkeleytown Heritage Park is on was actually county land, which was annexed to the town later on. But the community built a thriving place in space. So it had a school, it had a bakery, it had a lodge. They had churches and a baseball league. But over time, as that land was annexed into town and like the community changed, we have a college that's adjacent to the historic district. So of course, like student housing has gone in and kind of changed the dynamic of the community. We wanted to preserve the legacy. So we took the land and we did a historic park with 6 interpretive kiosks along the way that tell the story of Berkeleytown heritage, of the Berkeleytown community. There's actually a link to listen to oral histories about it, but I was involved in the process from walking the land in my steel-toed boots, putting stakes where the trail was going to go, to cutting the ribbon. I didn't cut it; I held one end of it. But doing the ribbon cutting celebration, and it took a lot of effort and buy-in from the community for this park. It was a learning process for me. But it was just this moment of like, I built this, like I go and walk it and like people are walking their dogs or, students from the college are running the trail. And I'm like, this trail is here because of me. And like, it's such a cool feeling to like leave that legacy, but also to lift up the voices of a community that, was silenced for so long and then kind of, disappearing over time. And so now that they'll always have, it's a very sacred space. It's beautiful. And I'm really, really proud of that.
I got to follow up before Jay hops in I want to follow up on that a little bit in case we go to a different direction. We haven't talked about this in 100+ episodes. I think McCarty a little bit talked about some things with Jedi, but like Pflugerville has a section called the Historic Colored section of town. And none of us have felt comfortable with that phrasing, and everyone in the current day have wanted to change that. And the African Americans in our community is like, no, that's what it was. It's the historic colored section. We want to honor that. We want that uncomfortable feeling to stay in some way, because that is how they were outside of town. They were, off in their own spot. And obviously the town's grown around it. And we're working to do some really cool legacy things ourselves with that section of town. But there is there's a feeling that comes with that. And there's hard feelings that come with that, and layers of this onion that you peel off. And some people are like, okay, let's honor it, but let's not rebirth some of the old tough moments that we don't want to embrace or whatever. What was that like? Like, was there, when you're talking about this section of town that was kind of ostracized in some way, and they come out and they have their own successes, and now this city has grown around it and wants to celebrate it. Was there anything like, well, hold on, like were there some tough conversations or some hard moments that were maybe experienced?
Yeah, it was my second month on the job. So my first month was, in
the winter storm,
right? Yeah. And then
now you're handling segregation. You have in 2 months had some.
Yeah. And my second month was we had a community meeting about the park, because we had just gotten the land donation, which was in the works before I got there, with the idea that it would be a park. And we were working with our Hanover County Black Heritage Society and our kind of community matriarchs and patriarchs to bring people to this meeting. And so we're all in this community center. We go to introduce the park project, and a chorus of "Not in my backyard" comes up. And my little Leslie Knope heart was shocked. I was like, you mean you don't want a park? Like, can we just put grass everywhere and make the entire world a park? I mean, I'm thinking we're gonna love this idea. The community.
Jay, Leslie Knope is a TV character
from Pawnee.
Good call.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So
she played you on TV, Jay.
Yeah, so that's, I think, the thing that took the most time with the community was building rapport, but also we had to kind of back up, because we came in hot. We had a preliminary design for the park, and we had all these ideas, and the community, I think, at the beginning felt like we were doing this to them, not with them. Mm. So we really had to dial back and start having some intentional conversations with people in the community about why we were doing this and what we hoped it would become, and get some really influential kind of key people on board. We made some concessions, like the park backs up to a lot of homes and backyards. So we put in privacy fencing for those neighbors that were right there, so that they felt more comfortable with people using the park. We didn't put in any play structures or anything. It's passive educational. We included the community members in the research process for the online component and the signage. So we actually enlisted help from our college and had one of their Black Studies classes, and then another one of their communications classes, take oral histories from those who still were associated with around and associated with Berkeleytown community. So we really kind of flipped the narrative, and it was less like, we're doing this to you. It's more, we're doing this together. But there was a lot of sensitivity about, myself and my supervisor who were running this were two white women, and we wanted to make sure that there was representation, because we don't have that context, and I think context was really a big deal here. And then it's funny, because I think back to that first meeting, and one of our biggest adversaries, it was my first interaction with her, and I thought, oh Lord, how are we ever going to get this done? At the ribbon cutting, she was our biggest supporter. And awesome. So that's probably also what makes me so proud of that moment, is like, that was a true community building effort, and just it 180. But man, for a while there, I was like, this thing is not going to get legs. Like, we're just going to be sitting on this property.
I don't think we talk about how part of Parks and Rec's job, other than almost every other department or agency, is helping sometimes a city reconcile its uncomfortable past or history. Like, other than maybe the library, I don't know any other department that's going to do that. Maybe you could work with planning in some capacity to do some things like that structurally, but that's kind of our role. I think our industry tries to tackle it sometimes, but we don't talk about it enough. So I really appreciate that, Jay.
Well, then on the other side of that, almost the bridge to bring people together. So whether it's like uncomfortable past or challenging past, it's always that like future bridge to like let's bring people together. Let's focus on, an event or activity or a program or, a ribbon cutting or groundbreaking, whatever it may be. And it's like let's bring people together to either share those past experiences and then focus on the future.
Yeah, it's about getting us back to where maybe we weren't there at one time, but we all
Yeah.
want to get back to this community
Right.
space. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I just want to go back to that story you're talking about with the overwhelming happiness and just like the feeling when you're building that park and you're building something for the first time and being a part of every step of that. Because I did that in Indian Trail and like the blood, sweat, and tears, like truly, like not just using that as a term, but like actually like having blood, sweat, and tears go into like a big park project. But then that feeling at our opening ceremony, there's nothing like that. And my question for you is if you could kind of go back in time and look at that, is there anything that you would have done different in like the planning and the design of it or the growing it and building it and then just like the opening of it? Is there anything you would change?
Well, definitely the way we approached it from the beginning. Like we really came in too hot. And
Y'all were excited.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that we were excited. We should have been a little more thoughtful in the way that we approached the community because then we really had to kind of like backpedal and it took us longer to get to that finish line, that ribbon cutting, because we had to step back a little bit and I like what you were saying about, bringing people together. Like I see parks as a great equalizer, and just a place where everybody should be able to feel like they belong. For us, like I think that there was a moment where maybe we didn't create that feeling, with the group. So yeah, I would go into it with a little more community engagement focus, and start those conversations differently. Otherwise, though, I mean, little things like the community said, don't put any parking in because we don't want people to park and stay a while. So we didn't. And now we're having to like crowbar in some parking, because people want to go. It's completely ADA accessible, which I think is crucial. It's close to an elementary school. So we've got, student groups that like to go and walk it. We had local artists do all of our signs, so they're very unique to the community, and they're hand painted. They're beautiful. So yeah, I would just say the approach, and of course, with any project like that, we hit some, bumps in the road with building it. We found a headstone on the property.
Oh no.
Yeah, so we had to kind of pump the brakes there. There's apparently 2 cemetery plots adjacent to our park that we don't own. Luckily, the headstone had just found its way onto our property, and so we were able to reunite the headstone with the grave. Every time I walk through the park, I thank his name is Ed Smith for not haunting me.
Yeah.
But so little things like that, you're always going to uncover something in the process. But you're right. That moment when we cut the ribbon and the joy of the community, and because they felt seen, I think that's a big thing. People want to be seen, and they felt celebrated, and there was gratitude and community, and it just like I still think about that and I get chills from that moment.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We talked about this a little earlier, but it's kind of permeated, and it wasn't what I love about this stupid podcast is I think you were an extern just this last year or 2 years ago.
Last year.
So we were all at the same social as you, I'm sure. And hopefully these guys went and talked to you. I know I didn't, and I already regret it. And I was excited to reach out to you, and I was excited about our interactions. But like, even after talking to you or, connecting with you and us having our conversations ahead of time and me thinking how this is going to go, and it never goes how we think it's going to go. Right. But like resilience in some ways has permeated through this. And I didn't think I'd see that. Not that I didn't think you were an incredibly resilient person. I just didn't think that's where it would come. But like everything has had this a level of resilience to it. Whether we've had some conversation where you had some issues at Utah State, you following Chase and what he went through, and then you had your own situations or whatever there. But then leaving, going to a new industry, and then the snow thing happening, and then you handling with this, and we talked about the small agency network, and coming back to it, I guess what is now somewhat more clear to me that I've had some, probably even my smallest agency would have been at the top end of the small agency. Hutto was 33,000 population. So like, it's small to me, right? But it wouldn't have been necessarily super small for the agency. I think the resilience in I'd love to hear a little bit more about it. I can go to a Jamie Sabak session or a Nile session and also realize I can afford to bring them on. Or I can go to a CIP process and here, we did a $80 million bond. I have $130 million CIP. I'm fixing to a bond in 2026 this fall. I think it's $65 million. And I can get excited about what it looks like. I imagine you have to go to those, if you attend them, feel some certain way about them, but also say, okay, how can I do a portion of that? How can I do what Jamie's doing, or how can I do something that Nilay's done and do it internally with me and my part-time staff member, or with this board that I have? How can I create a park, but it's not a park that is going to have the pomp and circumstance of the park that Jay, you went to Bentley's Park, for example.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and I guess I've just probably always, like I said, had some larger agency privilege on that. What's that like? Do you go to sessions and say, okay, this is by Dallas, or this is by Raleigh, or this is by Seattle, and I know it's not 100% applicable, but I'm going to steal something from it, and I'm going to maximize what I get out of it? Or do you go to a smaller? Do you do what Tom was talking about? Do you say, okay, my 10 o'clock hour, I'm going to go to whoever is representing the smallest agency possible, because that's the most applicable to what I'm going to be dealing with? How do you interact with our industry and professional development and education sessions through a lens of a one-woman department?
Yeah, that's really interesting you say that. So I went to my first NRPA conference in Dallas. And of course, like, I went alone. I'm lucky to have been involved with our state association long enough to know some people and kind of have a group to roll with, which I think is really important. It's why I found Chase. Like, I was at that fitness conference by myself, and he was doing the worm on the dance floor, and I was like, those are my people. Like, I want to know those people. And then we were both in Utah, and he recruited me into Utah State. I was working at a different university there. Dallas felt defeating. And when I say that, because I felt like every session I went to, it was like, oh, well, that's cool, but I can't do that. Oh, they're talking about, senior programs. I don't even have any indoor facility. Oh, they're talking about mobile rec programs. Like, I'm driving a old police vehicle around as my car, that it doesn't even have it is a cassette player. I mean, like, and so it just felt like I'm never going to be able to do this. And what I had to step back and realize is, yes, I will maybe never be able to, in Ashland, have a massive special event with 50,000 people, or, do something like that. But it doesn't mean my work is any less valuable. It doesn't mean my pool party that is free to, our pool's a paid service. We do a free pool day every year. We get 500 people. Just because it was only 500 people doesn't mean that it was any less meaningful, or that it didn't have that level of impact to those people. So that's where I think, I go to the bigger sessions to get ideas, to network. Like, I'm actually, one of my presentations this year is with Chris Nunes, and so good friends with him. Now getting involved with the Academy. Tom, I think we're supposed to be on a meeting together in like 3 minutes or something for our Academy. Yeah, so whoops. But yeah, so it can feel a little overwhelming, but it's how do I scale that back and still, have and take the premise behind it, or the goal behind it, versus like the actual, this is how you do it. And you talk about resilience, and I think about a lot about Keith and his position in Bryant, Arkansas. He was assistant director, moved into a director role, and they have no CIP. He has no CIP money. He has to go to council every time he needs something. He was really, instead of building a department, he had to completely rebuild his. They have, and funding's huge for him. And so, sometimes I think, well, at least at least I do have a CIP. It's not very much, but you're right. It takes a lot of resilience, but you have to just focus on the bigger picture. And that's why I think the small agency network for me is so important, is just communicating that your work matters and it has an impact. It may not be the impact that, I always compare, as I said, to Loudoun County and Virginia Beach. It may not impact 50,000 people, but those 50 or 500 who came, it mattered to them.
But I would think that, I'm being hopeful here. So my last couple years on the CPC, we had a lot of conversations about getting more sessions from smaller agencies or getting smaller agencies on the committee. And I wonder if with now your new network, if there'll be some sort of poll or even a
representation
to have a guaranteed representation of someone on CPC, so that you are not going to NRPA's conference and there's only 3 sessions out of 180 that pertain to small departments. So I'm sure that conversation is going to continue to grow on that, because like I said, I'm not on CPC anymore, but when I was, the last year and 2 years of it, we had a lot of conversations about really diversifying not just the makeup of the committee from regionally or geographically, but also agency size and then the speakers that are there. So, and on one hand, it was funny because there was a little bit of pushback from some folks. It was like, hey, I've always spoken, I didn't get in this year. Why didn't I get in? And that was some of the conversations of well, we need to make sure that all representations are being, served and being spoken to and being able to heard. So that thought process hopefully will drive some more ideas to drive that even further from your perspective and other small agencies. And I think with putting this flashlight on that, it's not just from a conference perspective, but everything else that goes along with it, from planning to operations to budget. NRPA obviously does a great job with a bunch of trainings that are done, and that there's online webinars. I wouldn't be surprised if you see more webinars that are small agency focused to help those, get new ideas or get funding or alternative funding resources. Because as much as you're connected with people like Chris Nunes and others, not everyone has that resource or has that ability. So giving them that resource would be helpful from the NRPA perspective.
Yeah, and when they see the numbers that you've already talked to us about, a Thursday that's getting over 100 individuals in the basement floor, and I had one of those sessions in the basement floor as well. It was very, very difficult to navigate, but luckily Meredith Lawrence was part of it, so she brought the crowd. And they're going to see those numbers. They're going to see the numbers of your meetings, those quarterlies. I'm going to find it very hard to believe that 250 people are registering for the LDN. It could be. Maybe I'm wrong because I haven't attended one, but a little bit about the LDN. And so I think if they start seeing the numbers, and you just go back to what we said earlier about some kind of designation in the sessions, in the descriptions, but Jay, to your point, it could give a little bit of hope too, for not even hope. Hope's not the right word. Give me a little bit of an incentive to make me feel that I can apply to submit a session, because I have a lot to offer, right? So I'm speaking when I say I mean the global small agency representative. I bet there's a lot of people who are very shy to apply because they just don't feel that they're going to stack up. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe not hope, but encouragement or excitement to apply. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's absolutely a goal for us. And so at conference, there will be at least 2 sessions on small agencies, because I'm involved in both of them. And then we will have a small agency network meeting, kind of like YPN. I know, that's more of the retreat, but LDN has their in-person meeting. So we'll have an in-person meeting time, which I'm really excited about, getting all these people in the same room. And, when we were talking about this with NRPA and building this network, there was, talk about well, what about the small agencies that can't afford an NRPA network or don't see the value in NRPA because NRPA doesn't have a lot out there for small agencies? And so I think that that's where we're changing the conversation and opening that door and saying, we're actively, sharing your stories and lifting your voices. We've got the column in the magazine now, we've got the network, we've got meetings, we've got education sessions. And so I would hope that more people would step up and start, feeling like they can share their story, because they absolutely should.
I really do hope for you and Keith to be able to look back at what us three have had a really cool opportunity. And it's rare in our industry to look back on something that you kind of helped create and then to see the impact and how it's permeated even at the state level. Us three will always have a very close connection to the YPN, even as our gray hairs continue. Both Jay and I for sure have come in. I mean, I'm getting in my freaking beard now, but it's that thing that you're probably most proud of. Like you can't separate yourself from it. Like even as the years continue to separate you from it, I can't help but look over at the YPN, be checking on them, be excited for them. And I hope that this small agency network has the impact that the YPN seem to have had, because I think it has every bit of the excitement and the momentum and the need that the YPN did. And I just hope for you and Keith that it is a nails on thing that benefits this community, our industry, for a very long time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I will say that I listened to your episode where you talked a little about YPN with Katie Mack, and I think one of you joked that you're the godfather of YPN, but we joked that I'm the godmother of
I love
the
it.
small agency network.
That's cool.
I wanted to name it Small Agency Cult, but they wouldn't let me, so I had to change it to network. But one thing that was said on that podcast that stuck with me is that this is like the thing that you're most proud of accomplishment. And I can talk about all that I did in Ashland, and I'm so proud of that. But nothing makes me more fulfilled and excited and happier than like getting on that call yesterday with 83 other people who totally get it and connecting and knowing that they're not alone. Like that just fills my cup in a way that, it's very special. And so that's definitely, I know Keith has the same sentiment. Like this is, a legacy that we hope to leave, but you're right. I mean, I don't know how I could ever not be involved with it. So future chairs, just
be aware. It's one of those things where you have this proof of concept that you think, or you have this idea that you think in your head, and you talk to people and other people are like, yeah, I feel that same way. But then when you show up on your first meeting, and the difference between yours and ours is the YPN's first meeting had Tom in it, and it had almost me and Tom in it. That was about it. There's like 12 of us in that thing. And I had promised NRPA it was going to be this thing. And they told me I had to have 150 members by the end of the year. And I pull up the first conference and we have 12. And I'm like, this is not a great way to start this network. But to already hear that you have 83, I mean, that's going to 10 times itself. Like you're going to look up in just a couple of years and you'll be closer to 8,000 than you will be to 83. I can promise you that. You will feel this impact grow monumentally. And it's it's super exciting because you felt that way. And then you experienced what you experienced yesterday was 83 other people also felt the exact same way as you. They said, yep, I wasn't as seen. I wasn't as heard. I was floating around somewhat aimlessly in this industry. And now there's a thing for me. And it's like, wow, it's a different type of feeling for sure.
Yeah. NRPA might want to get a large room for that network meeting.
Yeah, honestly, it's going to blow up.
I mean, really, because there's so many small agency people floating around.
In fact, when we go present at conferences, there's way more small agencies. Whether Tom and I at Oklahoma, all three of us in Wisconsin, when I was in Minnesota, when we did Mass, y'all did Maryland. I think it's more likely that you run into an agency where there's 12 or less people than there are 45 or more people, staff-wise. Yeah.
Agreed.
It's going to blow up. Okay, so we're to the round robin, which you're not unfamiliar with, right? And my first round robin is going to be your name, Pawnee Raccoon Control. And I know the story, and I actually came upon the story because I was Googling your town, and it was one of the first things that came up. But I don't think these two guys know the story. What is the significance behind your name?
Yeah, so Pawnee is the town that Leslie Knope, I like to call myself real life Leslie Knope. So it's the town that Leslie Knope is works in the Parks and Rec TV show. But for those who have not heard, in December, I think November, December, we had an incident where a raccoon broke into our ABC store, drank a whole bunch of liquor, and then passed out next to the toilet and was
How great
found
is
by animal control. So we are the hometown of the drunk raccoon. I would like to say he made a full recovery, but he went viral, international news. If you haven't seen it, look up the picture. It's hilarious.
Wow.
But the great part of it is that it brought a lot of attention to our animal control, and they actually sold merch and made a whole bunch of money. And
That's
then
cool.
they're able to like kind of upgrade some of their services. And as a beloved dog mom, I am very grateful for all that the animal controls do. But I put the Pawnee Raccoon Control because Ashland kind of feels a little bit like a Pawnee, and Pawnee also has a raccoon situation. So,
Great.
yeah.
I told her I would have a drunk raccoon on every poster, everything I designed in Parks and Rec would have some hidden drunk raccoon somewhere.
Yep. A boozed up trash panda made us famous.
I love it.
I actually did see that story when it came out, but I didn't know where it was. So
Yeah.
as soon as you started talking about it and then it went viral, I was like, I remember seeing it, but I didn't know that is your town. So
Mhm.
that's very interesting. I've never been to Ashland, but I've been to Richmond, which I know is nearby. How far is Richmond?
15 minutes.
Oh, okay. Richmond's a cool city. It's got a lot of breweries, and that's why one of the reasons why I was there. I was going to visit some breweries. But what's the main attraction if I come to Ashland? What am I going to be doing if I have a half a day to go check out everything in Ashland?
So Ashland's a train town. We get about 80 trains through the center of town a day. CSX, Amtrak, we're a stop on the Amtrak, but we really draw a lot of people to town for the trains, train watchers, train enthusiasts. In a week, we have Train Day, which is a big event that the town puts on. Ashland reminds me of a Hallmark movie. It's a very quirky, eclectic downtown. We call ourselves a small town with big personality. And so, you can hop into a brewery for a drink and then go to, a funky little art store and watch the trains. It's very walkable. So, you're probably just gonna, hang out and there's just this really lovely sense of community here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're a little quirky and I like it.
It's interesting you talk about the trains because in the intro, there was a reference to Shane being a train track
Off the
that's
tracks.
not on the track, but I don't think we've ever actually said anything like that before, and it happened to be for a reference that makes total sense for your show.
Another thing is, I don't know if I've ever shared this, but I freaking love trains. I'm a huge train nerd.
Don't you have a train tattoo all over your back?
All over.
So yeah, we found that out in the Massachusetts, the Boston
Well, we
night in
slept together.
Massachusetts. Honestly, Shane, that's great. I'm glad you shared a new fact. I'm not surprised though. I honestly am not surprised. That just seems like I could just picture, 10-year-old Shane,
Junior says it's one of those checkbox for my autism is like, oh yeah, of course he loves trains,
That's funny. Okay. So I did not eat lunch today. I am so hungry. And Jake kind of asked the question of what are we doing, but what are we eating there?
Pecan pie. Anybody a fan?
She said it right.
Yeah.
She said it right.
Did you do that intentionally?
I'm sure
No, I
Shane
didn't.
told you to say that.
No.
Some pecan pie. Okay.
I'm from Southern Georgia, so I should say pecan pie, but I guess I've been up here long enough. Although we're still technically considered the South.
But if you're in Georgia, everyone in Georgia calls it what?
Pecan.
Thank you.
So,
another one.
Yeah, we've got this really great place. It's called Homemades by Suzanne, and the pies are unreal. So we would grab a beer at Origin. Jay, you said you like breweries. It's a really cool little laboratory themed brewery.
Cool.
And then we would go get some pie. We'd probably need something of substance though. So we'd go to this really cool little place called Ash and Olive where they have a big like wood fired oven and they make these delicious like pizzas and sandwiches. So
I'm in for
Doesn't
all
sound
of
bad.
this.
Yeah.
This
Come
sounds like an
visit.
amazing day.
Doesn't
Yeah.
sound bad. Reckless on the road. Okay, so you're from Savannah, which we have. I've never been. I have always heard great things about, and it's one of those places Hannah and I have talked about going. If we were all in Savannah, what's the tour? Where would you take us? Breakfast, lunch, dinner.
All right. Well, what's really funny is that Keith, who started the Small Agency Network with me, is actually in Savannah right now.
Oh wow!
On
you
vacation.
gave him where to go.
Oh yeah, I'm so passionate about it. It's my hometown. It's part of the fabric of who I am that I wrote like a 3-page recommendation. He was like, I'm gonna need a month to get through this.
Yeah.
So we're gonna grab breakfast at Clary's Cafe. It's like your typical diner. It's a Savannah staple. Grew up going there. And then for lunch, we would probably go to Sorry Charlie's Oyster Bar, sit on the rooftop, some good views there, great happy hour. For dinner, we're going down to River Street and we are going to go to a couple options there, but probably going to go to Vic's, have like a really nice like seafood dinner. And then we'll finish with another rooftop for a sunset at Rocks on the Roof. If you want my recommendation guide, it's, as I said,
There
it's
we
a little
go.
overwhelming. But yeah, born and raised there, multiple generations in Savannah, and it's a very special place to me.
Love that.
Yeah, that's great.
I feel like I should get endorsements from all those restaurants now.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
Emmy approved.
I may be reaching out to you because we go there occasionally. We're not that far away. So if I'm planning a trip there, I'm going to shoot you an email and get that list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you talked about you're doing 2 sessions at conference this year, correct?
Yes.
What is, when someone says conference session, what's the first session that comes to mind that you've been to that was just hit a nerve and just like something that's unforgettable that you saw someone speak on at a previous conference?
That is a really good question. I think that the biggest one, and I'll shout him out again, Chase Ellis, you know, aside from the friendship, talking about imposter syndrome and all of that, I felt a ton of that coming into my position, especially, you know, being brand new in the Parks and Rec world, having come from Campus Rec. I had moved from Utah to Virginia to be closer to my parents who now live here. So it was, you know, a lot was changing in my life. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like I had no, you know, it's just like, and I've been to a lot of his sessions and really identified it, but creating space for those like real, authentic, vulnerable conversations, which is another thing that I hope to do with the Small Agency Network, has just like that really struck me. And being brave enough to be vulnerable, being brave enough to share, you know, the good, bad, and the ugly, because everybody's going through it. And so it just gives you the permission to be authentically you. So I think that those kinds of conversations, when I see that happening at conference or director summit or other trainings, I really resonate with that, because that to me is just creating those safe spaces to be authentic and honest and vulnerable. I think is really important in our profession, but in the world right now too.
Chase and Bryce and Farrell, that's kind of a superpower too as a team.
They're amazing.
We're getting better at talking about being vulnerable. They thrive in it in some capacity or another.
Yeah. Bryce is fantastic. I love that guy. And Farrell has facilitated Director Summit and just done a wonderful job of teeing up, you know, those conversations for us. And I don't think I've ever been so honest and open with a group of people like that than I have in those spaces, which is just truly valuable.
Yeah, there's a fear, you know, without having that space, there's a fear of being judged, you know, a fear of, am I adequate? Am I stacking up? So I love that, and I'm excited to potentially have the opportunity to be a part of that at some point. We'll see. So my last question, and first of all, Jay, your question, the way you worded it, you said this really struck a nerve. I thought you were going to ask her like, what was just a terrible session that you went to?
Because then we're up there probably, you know, then we're landing on her hit list.
I mean, you could have like a positive struck nerve. I'm just saying.
I guess it's just
Is
usually
that what
not
I
used
am
that
to
way.
you? I'm a
Yeah, you
positive
strike
struck nerve.
nerves.
You are
Oh,
a well. That's another conversation for another day.
Fair enough.
thorn. Yeah, we got a lot of analogies we can go with. So, if you could tell us three individuals from your experience as an extern that you did not know before your experience as an extern,
Oh, nice.
that you're just, you know what, this was amazing. Through this program, I met these three individuals. Obviously, it could be your mentor buddy and another person. It doesn't have to be. But yeah, I'd love to know. We're three people from, and I'm sure there were more than three, but if you gotta tell us three from that experience with the externship. And by the way, while you're thinking, I'll give you some time. That was the meeting that we're supposed to be on right now, the externship committee. I texted Mr. Tony Lopez. I told him it's not going to happen
Hey,
today.
we got an episode. Sorry, buddy.
We're recording. You're a former guest. You should know. And also the externship applications are due today. So a
Oh,
little tie-in to a recipient from last year. So go ahead.
Well, the first I'll say is a fellow extern that I met at the conference. Her name is Audrey Cooper, and she's in a small town in Washington. So it was really cool to get to talk with her. We really bonded over the small town, small agency stuff. And so she's been a big supporter of the small agency network, which has been fantastic. So was really excited to meet her. She's doing really good work in her capacity as well. Janet Bartnick. And she actually is in Virginia. So we actually just a couple weeks ago got to have dinner or got to have lunch together and catch up. But she was my mentor. Also has like a bit of a small agency background.
A lot of background, yeah.
Yeah. And so
it's tough to meet Janet, not be impressed by her for sure.
She's the best,
Yeah, she is. And she, is just so down to earth and relatable. And every time we talk, I wish I had more hours with her. And so I've really enjoyed getting to know her. And then Molly Keys, got to shout her out and all of her, experience with YPN. But same thing, like doesn't come from a Parks and Rec background. She was working for the Y and is now director, female director, small town, very relatable there. So, and we have continued to have a good relationship and keep in touch since then. So, got to see her in Massachusetts. She was presenting as well. So those three really have had a big impact, and the Academy in general has just opened my eyes to so much more, and so much possibility and service. And so, legends in the field. I'm on the Legends Committee, which has been really interesting to learn more about. So I'm very excited to continue involvement with them.
That's a great list.
It is. It's cool to see the impact of the extern. I think we all felt the same way, and it's continued to impact us years after. So, well, I would normally end there, but I got one more. I think it'll be a fun one. You're a one-woman department, but you've had to hire the three of us knuckleheads. Where do you put us?
Pool boys.
Yeah.
All of us.
Okay.
All of us.
Let's go. Work on the tan. Oh, that's great. That's right.
Yeah. I could always use a little.
We can make a
help.
calendar.
Oh, perfect.
There you go.
That's my creative funding source for a
there we
small
go.
agency.
We'll do a drunk raccoon calendar.
You will lose money on this.
Summer hiring can never have enough staff, right?
This is great. Emmy, thanks for the time. This has been exactly what I thought it was going to be. I was super excited to have you on and have a conversation with you and the guys, and it's been great.
You knew you were
this
going to
has
be
been
called a pool
so
boy?
fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for the time.
This was great. Thank you.
Thanks, Emmy.
Thank you, guys. Excited to see you at conference.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
All right. Talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. She
That was fun.
once again, our future is in great hands. Anytime we have a young professional on, I am more and more excited to retire. It's like, they've got it. We're fine.
You remember in the beginning of the show, I talked about Naomi Cisnowski and just the vibe, the energy, and what they've done is very similar. And to your point, just with people like that coming in behind us, it's we do know we're in a good place. I got to tell you, one of the lessons that I'm going to take from this episode that I didn't want to obviously get into it with Emmy here, but you said it, Shane. Hopefully, Jay and I went and introduced ourselves to Emmy. I'm going to be very honest. I don't know if I did. And
Yeah.
if I did, it was a very quick introduction, not a conversation. And so I just learned so much. And that's the whole point of this podcast is that we're
Yeah.
actually having a conversation with someone, not at a social where it's loud and you don't know if you're going to get into some real valuable conversation. So I get that. That's the whole point of the podcast. But it also really taught me a little bit of a lesson that I need to make a little bit more of an effort to talk to those four externs.
Yeah.
Even if it's a 5 minute, 10 minute conversation at some point, because she has a lot to share. And I have a lot to learn from individuals like that. And just to, again, make that connection. And I'm very impressed by her. So I wish that it made me think, I wish I started talking to her at the conference or got to know those other individuals before they were past externs.
Yeah. I
She's
love this.
fantastic.
No, I agree. But I love this shift of really seeing and then focusing on this smaller department need
Yeah.
that's out there. And I'm saying, and I know, Tom, you're in it, and I've been in it, and it's just like it's there, it's alive, and it's probably way overdue.
Yeah.
And I think for so long, there was a lot of folks that just like came together amongst smaller groups within their region to seek that advice or that like, the team need of trying to
Yeah.
share ideas. And now it's just on a much better scale and more resourceful for them. So it's exciting.
Yeah, I was excited to have her on when I started to get to know her and look at her resume and some of the things she had done. I also think what a home run for that agency. You have a gal leaving Campus Rec, has never ran a city at all. You take a chance on her, you bring her on. She's gone from, like that coordinator role under Public Works to a manager role. You're now going to make her the director. She's opened a park. She's managed that type of, legacy defining thing. She's had a huge impact on that community in her 4 years. And
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that couldn't have been predicted. No one would have said, look at her background. Of course, she's going to be great in this role. So it's another one of those things like we talked about with Heavenly, where you give someone that's got the energy for it a chance and they just freaking nail it for you. So hats off to Ashland, Virginia, whoever made the hire, because she's like the best of us already. I'm excited to get to meet her in person, and I hope that we keep the connection with her. I've got her cell. I'll connect us after this. But I was excited for her, as I have been for a long time, to have someone on, because she had energy. She had a really cool thing she was doing. This small agency network thing, I think, is going to explode.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah, I love it.
Absolutely. Fellas, until next time, see ya.
All right. We'll see you all next time.
Here at RecLess, we love to give back to the community that we're so passionate about. We do that by providing scholarships to professionals to attend conferences they may not otherwise be able to attend. That's where you come in, sponsorships. If you are interested in a sponsorship, we'd love to connect with you. So this spot could be yours. Contact us today at recklesspod@gmail.com or check us out at recklesspod.com for more details.
This episode of RecLess wouldn't have been possible without the support of our agencies and our better halves, Melissa Salatino, Lindsay Tryon, and our executive producer, Hannah Mize. We also want to thank our director of hashtags and swag, Rooney Taylor, and our team of junior producers, Luke, James, Elizabeth, Grant, and Harper. Stay up to date on all things RecLess by following all of our social media, and like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast to ensure you don't miss an episode. See you next time on RecLess.